Hello and welcome back to Vintage Disney here on Brian's Things That Are Cool. All month long we'll be paying tribute to the ghouls, ghosts, and creepy crawlies brought to us by the Disney Company. So let's start things off where the crypt doors creak and the tombstones quake, the Haunted Mansion. Whenever candlelight flickers, where the air is deathly still, that is the time when ghosts are present on the Haunted Mansion. With versions at Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Tokyo Disneyland, this spooky fan favorite delights crowds all over the world. In Disneyland in California, guests ride through a beautiful antebellum-era mansion and meet mostly the same ghosts you meet in the Walt Disney World version, which differs only with the mansion's Gothic revival style. In Paris, it's called the Phantom Manor and has an American Old West theme, and Vincent Price is the voice of the ghost host. In Hong Kong, Mystic Manor features no references to ghosts or the afterlife due to differences in Chinese culture. An enchanted music box brings inanimate objects to life as you ride along with Lord Henry Mystic and his monkey Albert. It's the Walt Disney World version I'm most familiar with, and it's always exciting to jump into your dune buggy as it moves through Gracie Manor, when creepy creeps with eerie eyes start to shriek and harmonize with a mix of centuries-old theatrical effects like the Pepper Ghost illusion and modern special effects including audio animatronics. My two favorite set pieces are the ballroom scene, where our spooks arrive to dance the night away as paintings come to life, and the graveyard scene, where, as the song says, grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize. With their catchy music and imaginative designs, it's the only time where you don't get upset when the ride breaks down, because you get a little extra time to take in the 999 happy haunts. With its spooky atmosphere and endless creativity, the story of how the Haunted Mansion came to be is as intriguing as the ride itself. So let's go all the way back to the early 1950s and see how these happy haunts materialized. When the idea of Disneyland first started forming in Walt's brain, his initial plan was to build a small park across the street from his studio. Disney Imagineer Harper Goff drew a design for the park featuring a Main Street setting with green fields and a western village. Leading away from Main Street was a crooked path by an old church graveyard with an old rundown manor on the top of a hill overlooking Main Street. Imagineer Ken Anderson was put on to flesh out Goff's idea, and soon the idea of New Orleans Square started to develop. Ideas included a thieves' square, a pirate wax museum, and a walk-through haunted house. Anderson's initial design featured a house with overgrown weeds, dead trees, and broken windows. Walt rejected this design, saying he didn't like the idea of having a rundown building in his park. Walt, who had recently visited the Winchester Mansion, wanted something equally as bizarre and beautiful. Anderson started coming up with stories for the attraction, including a ghostly sea captain who killed his wife and hung himself, and a ghostly wedding party with well-known Disney characters, including the spooks from Mickey's Lonesome Ghost short. Imagineers Yale Gracie and Raleigh Crump were soon brought on to further the project. In 1961, without the attraction completely developed, they began building the mansion itself, and even handed out handbills to guests announcing a 1963 opening. The exterior was completed in 1963, but with Walt's involvement with the 1964-1965 World's Fair and his death in 1966, the old manor sat vacant for 6 years. When the fair was over, Ken Anderson left the project, leaving among others Ex Intencio, Mark Davis, and Raleigh Crump. Imagineers like Claude Coates really wanted the attraction to be scary, while Imagineer Mark Davis really wanted silly and full of gags. In the end, they both won out. Raleigh Crump developed miniatures including a candle wax man, talking chairs, and coffin clocks that Walt adored, and planned to create a restaurant within the Haunted Mansion called Museum of the Weird. Many of Crump's designs ended up being part of the final attraction. Walt immediately put Raleigh Crump together with Yale Gracie to further develop Museum of the Weird. Yale Gracie would eventually lend his name to the owner of the Haunted Mansion himself, Master Gracie. No mourning, please, at his request. Gracie and Crump were given an entire warehouse to play in, creating all sorts of scary effects, many utilizing the Pepper's Ghost illusion, where a large pane of glass is set at an angle to catch the reflection of a brightly lit actor, creating the effect of a ghostly apparition on the stage. One night, Gracie and Crump
left, forgetting to turn off the attractions. The janitors complained, asking them to leave the lights on next time. They did, but they also installed motion sensors that turned off all the lights and turned on the ghosts. The next morning they received a call from the studio saying the janitors would not be back. When Walt died in December of '66, development was fast-tracked. A song was prepared by Buddy Baker with lyrics by Ex Atencio to be played throughout the attraction. Grim Grinning Ghosts took its title from William Shakespeare's poem Venus and Adonis. When they recorded the song, the organist played his parts backwards to add to the discord the composer intended. Finally, on August 12, 1969, the Haunted Mansion opened its doors to guests, including Kurt Russell and Donny Osmond. It was an odd time. There have been many changes over the years, from minor changes to major, including an all-new interactive ride queue in 2011, but the most important change came in 2015 when it was announced that the Hatbox Ghost would return to Disneyland's Haunted Mansion. The Hatbox Ghost was originally part of the attraction when it opened in 1969, but was removed when the illusion involving the ghost's head disappearing was deemed not convincing enough. Now, with modern technology, we can all enjoy this silly spook. In 2003, with the success of Pirates of the Caribbean, Disney released a film adaptation of the Haunted Mansion. What could go wrong?
Eddie Murphy.
Not a good start. Yeah, they really dropped the ball on this one. It's a shame too, because there are elements of a really fun movie here, so I can't really hate it all that much. So what's the story? Eddie Murphy stars as Jim Evers, a workaholic realtor who attempts to spend time with his family when they get sidetracked by the chance to put a huge old mansion on the market. Much like any family film ever, through a series of shenanigans, workaholic Jim learns that it's family that truly matters. The plot hits most of the beats you'd expect with a story such as this. That said, the art direction is gorgeous. The film was shot in New Orleans, and the mansion they built combines both Disneyland's antebellum architecture and Walt Disney World's Gothic style, with plenty of Disney's famed hidden Mickeys throughout the film. The supporting cast gives it their all, especially Terrence Stamp as the evil butler Ramsey. You can tell he's having a blast. While it's not a particularly memorable character, it's always nice to see Wallace Shawn here playing one of the ghosts. One of the few miscasts I feel is Jennifer Tilly as Madame Leota, here played for laughs and loses the mysticism of her counterpart from the attraction. Nathaniel Parker plays another character from the attraction, Master Gracie. In the ride, we only see Gracie hanging from the ceiling. He's a bit more fleshed out here, but the thinly veiled master and slave love affair plot isn't particularly interesting or needed. In fact, with the otherwise silly elements and Eddie Murphy's one-liners, 19th century race relations being tiptoed around is a rather uneasy fit. I also don't like the ending, which implies that the mansion being haunted is a curse, where in the ride, these are happy haunts. They love being ghosts. It comes across as a tacked-on happy ending, but as I said, there is a lot that works. The effects are enjoyable to look at, the fan service references to the ride are done well, and then there's Terrence Stamp. He's always been a striking screen presence, but he really steals the show as the spooky butler. Plus, not enough Disney movies end with the villain being dragged into hell. The film has its problems, and I'm excited to see the planned remake, but it still offers enough creepy elements that place it on my must-watch list this Halloween and every Halloween to come. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my look at the Haunted Mansion. If you want to be kept up to date as to when I release a new video, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you really want to be notified, go ahead, hit that bell as well. I'm Brian, and we're just getting started. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Since I produced this episode, a new Haunted Mansion movie has come out, so I figured I'd do a little add-on here and give my thoughts on it. In this second film adaptation of Haunted Mansion, third if you count the 2021 Muppet version, a single mother played by Rosario Dawson moves into an old house with her young son, but of course, it turns out to be haunted. Now it seems the only way to solve the issue is to turn to an astrophysicist played by LAKEITH Stanfield, a phony priest played by Owen Wilson, a psychic played by Tiffany Haddish, and the always hilarious Danny DeVito as an eccentric haunted house expert. A great cast and a rather underwhelming film, with unfortunately the same problem that plagued the 2003 film. Eddie Murphy's, for all of its problems, had a better pace to it though. And it seemed to benefit from keeping the story in the mansion for the majority of the film. This new film does have more nods to the ride, which is the biggest highlight of the movie, including a villain based on a character conceived for the original attraction, but who only recently took up residence there, the Hatbox Ghost, played by Jared Leto. It's hard to tell if the jokes are written well, as I think it's simply a matter of who's delivering them. Owen Wilson and Danny DeVito are known for playing rather broad characters, and that's really where the humor comes from. There's not a lot to say about the rest of the cast. They do fine. Certainly not awful, but not memorable either. The same can be said for the ghosts, with the exception of the Hatbox Ghost. In the 2003 version, there were multiple character actors playing ghosts who always give memorable performances, and there's nothing like that here. The storylines are a little bit more involved in the 2003 film, which makes sense given that there's more characters, but when the spooky stuff does happen in this new film, it is exciting. While I'm happy I saw it, I did find it rather forgettable, and I don't know if it'll become the staple of the season other Disney Halloween outings have become, like Hocus Pocus, or even Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion. So check it out now on Disney Plus and see if this reimagining is a Halloween classic or a Halloween dud.